Welcome back to another episode of the Social Web TV, the internet TV show that answers the question, who owns your data? With these two simple words, you do. Yes, and we've got another big week, a big show. Although when I say we, I mean me. My co-hosts have all abandoned me for other things all over the country. But there's so much going on in this space, I think it's important that even though I have a cold, the show must go on. What sort of things do we have? First up in the news, actually on the New York Times, a piece by Brad Stone recently covered some of the new APIs that are coming out there on the web and the emerging importance of APIs. I think this is kind of a big deal. He was talking about Best Buy that we mentioned last week on the show, but also MTV. And neither of these are mainstream internet plays. These are kind of offline retail and media companies that are getting into the space and mixing it up through APIs. So I think this is a kind of a sign that the story of APIs and interoperability are going to be something big over the next few months. Second, something we've talked about before, Facebook Connect was spotted in the wild this week. In fact, let's link up. TechCrunch covered that and pointed me in the direction of a pretty interesting site, which is CBS Properties' The Insider. Now, The Insider is not your typical social network site. In fact, it's really a celebrity gossip site. And if they wanted to build up a robust social graph and social interactions on their site, that would probably be some heavy lifting. And so the idea here is by letting their users connect with Facebook, they can bring that whole social experience of Facebook to the site and from the site back over to Facebook. And there's a lot of power to this model. Instead of joining the site with another username and password pair, you can actually join just using your Facebook credentials. So this is one I think you might want to check out. I think it's an early implementation and still a bit of rough edges. I didn't entirely get all of the flows, but for those who are really passionate about seeing this kind of mashup between social networks and the rest of the web, I recommend you go check out The Insider. Next up, really big news this week out of Google. And of course, you are probably all aware that Android is now ready to come to market. Android being Google's operating system for the mobile space. And the first phones will be shipping fairly soon with not just this Google operating system, but also the Google applications and a music store from Amazon. And this is really big. You know, the iPhone is a transformative device. In many ways, I think iPhone and Android are as important to watch as PCs were in the very late 70s or early 80s. These new devices are really little computers in our pocket, and they are the next platform. For those who didn't follow all the stuff that's come out of Apple recently, they reported that they had over 100 million downloads of applications in the first 60 days. And independent developers, some of them are reporting making as much as $250,000 just off of a single application, selling for $5 a pop. This is game-changing stuff. And now Google comes into this space, and instead of a proprietary, completely closed system that happens to have an application store, Google's opening it up. Open source code and a completely open market space that any developer can participate in. So we've talked in recent weeks about this movement away from the walled garden model to something new and different, which we call the social web, true interoperability. Last week we saw that that applied not just to social networks, but with YOS, Yahoo is taking that model of openness and applying it to one of the top tier internet properties, a mega portal, Yahoo. And in Google, they're taking it one step further and expanding this out really to this next platform of the mobile web. So lots to look forward to as that device arrives on the market. The last thing is one of the reasons why Joseph, who's usually to my right, is not here is that he's been on the East Coast this week speaking at two different conferences. One of them was the Web 2.0 Expo in New York, and the other one was MTech at MIT. And Joseph's talk at Web 2.0 Expo is now available online, so we'll provide a link if you want to download those slides. And there's also a blog post Joseph put up that links to some of the folks who covered his talk. Very well received. It's essentially, I think, entitled Tying It All Together, Implementing the Open Web. And it takes all these different building blocks that we've talked about and puts them together in a logical context. The ending of that presentation, I'd like to share with you now 3 slides that we developed specifically for that talk that puts it all in perspective. The first one, which will probably now be floating somewhere up here, is that there's now a clear vision for what the future of the social web will look like. And it's essentially built on a new services layer that will be provided by sites as diverse as Facebook, MySpace, Plaxo, Yahoo, and others. All of them are building it on top of this notion of identity provider, social graph provider, and content aggregator. And it's a shared vision, really, across some of the most important projects out there, including Google Friend Connect, Plaxo Pulse, YOS, MySpace Data Availability, and Facebook Connect. And so everyone's in agreement that the walled garden era is over, and now we're looking forward and building out the stuff that allows you to mash up the social network as a hub, or the portal as a hub, with the rest of the web. What's also interesting in the final slide is that most of the players in the space are actually building on a common new open stack. And so you can see this visual here, which we developed for that, shows this open stack that includes all of the different things we've discussed in recent weeks. OpenID for identity, XRDS Simple for discovery of services, OAuth, your valet keys for the web, and portable contacts, one of the most important types of data that you want to be able to get at, the people data, and Open Social. And what's really cool is that as a result of having a common open stack, everyone can innovate on top of it, everyone can contribute to it, and essentially these big players are now going to step on the gas for the acceleration of the innovation that comes in that open stack. Now you'll also see that Facebook, who shares that vision, doesn't actually share the approach on the stack. They're writing everything on Facebook proprietary code. I'm not drawing attention to that to criticize. I think Facebook gets the vision. Facebook is opening up. Facebook Connect is really interesting. But if you think about it, there's no reason why over time some or all of these open building blocks may slide over to the left and sit underneath Facebook Connect. So this is really big stuff. I think it puts it all in kind of interesting perspective. I'm surprised that mainstream media has not yet picked up on this story. And I'm hoping some of you out there are either mainstream media folks or influencers of them who can help to put some more focus on this new open stack. One of the things that we're thinking of doing is Open Stack Hack, a series of events that are hackathons, much like we had the 2 weeks ago for the Portable Contacts Summit, where you can learn how to develop against any and all of these elements of the open stack. So a lot going on this week. I'm really glad we did the show. Before we go, I want to invite on a special guest, Lauren Ellsworth, who is our intern here at Plaxo this summer. Welcome, Lauren.
Thanks, John.
And Lauren's also been an intern on this show, helped out a lot with things open. We promised at the beginning of the summer that it would be a very busy, action-packed one, and that if you came on board, you would see a lot of stuff from the inside out.
Yeah.
Has that been true?
I think that all of the things that you've talked about on the show have really come together in this summer. Every single thing in the open space has had a major development in the last 3 months.
Cool. Well, tomorrow's your last day on the job. You're going back to school. We're going to miss you. We thank you for all your help.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We know that you'll be out there blogging it up. It's
I
your
will.
new blog, which we'll provide a link to, redyaffle.com.
Yep, that's the one.
All right. So join Lauren remotely from wherever you are and see us next week for another exciting episode of The Social Web TV.